What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, as we all already know on this channel, we are not going to be checking out any more Battlefield 2042 footage, but instead, we're going to be checking out some classic clips here of Black Ops 1. And I think both communities, combined, obviously, between Call of Duty and Battlefield, can all come together and agree that this was one of the most goated games ever made in FPS history. I do understand that Battlefield fans have their beef, they have their complaints when it comes to Call of Duty, how simplistic it is, how plain it is, but something about Black Ops 1 just stood out in every possible way, and like I said, in my personal opinion, it is one of the best FPS games ever made. Now, we are going to be checking out the suppressed AK-47, and we're going to be playing on one of the most underrated maps in the whole game array. I don't know why they never brought this map back. To me personally, it's an absolute masterpiece. This right here is back when developers knew how to create good large-scale maps. Nowadays they don't really know how to do that. And I've always been more of a fan of large-scale maps because I understand people like, very small maps. They're more simplistic, but the flanking, the rush routes, they're really bad. Small maps are made for camping, whether people like that or not. It's just the simple facts. On Nuketown, you go to the middle of the map, you camp. In Shipment, you literally spawn in, you camp. And yes, you can maneuver the map and you can rotate around, but the majority of your kills when it comes to small maps comes from spawn trapping. Large maps are made for flanking, they're made for rushing, they're made for pushing enemies and objectives. The reason that people hate them usually is because they don't really understand how to flank or how to rotate, and they usually get caught out in the open. But like I said, it simply doesn't matter if people don't want to learn how to, rotate or learn a map, or if people do want to learn how to rotate a map. All the maps in general are just dog crap nowadays. It's really sad, but hopefully in the future that will be all resolved. But ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about Battlefield 2042, and very quickly before we get into the actual commentary, I do want to branch out and, give you guys a little side piece here, because I didn't want to make a full video about this exact topic, but Temporal over on Twitter, and Temporal is a very reliable data miner when it comes to anything revolving around Battlefield. He put out a tweet saying, 6 upcoming rewards for the weekly missions in Battlefield 2042, no particular order. SFAR MGL skin, headgear for Boris, M1A5 skin, Firecracker weapon camo, low poly weapon charm, and the Azor Tempest vehicle camo. I believe that is how you go ahead and pronounce it. And then obviously under this tweet, he has an image of each and everything that is actually coming into the game. These are going to be weekly challenges here. I gotta say, it's all right. It's average, but once again, it's absolutely nothing that's going to bring me back into the game to actually grind it out. The blast proof helmet, pretty cool. Tank camo, it's a little decent. The Firecracker camo looks pretty decent. I heard that's supposed to be like a Chinese New Year type camo and stuff like that. The Azure Tempest, pretty badass. Charm, don't care, don't give a crap about that stuff. And Snow Blaster, it's your typical, winter camo skin. So if somehow you are still going ahead and grinding this game, I don't know how you could possibly still be doing it, but if you are, these are the weekly challenges that you should be looking forward to. Like I said, they have some decent ones, but for me personally, absolutely nothing like this is going to get me back into the game. I mean, that mouse input feels like crap, the connection feels like crap, the servers feel like crap, every single lobby is filled with bots, just players alone. If they brought back players to play this game so I could verse real people instead of AI all the time, maybe that would get me back into the game, right? But these camos, it's not enough, especially coming from the PC side of things. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today we actually have some pretty juicy information about some past developers who worked on the Battlefield 2042 game. The game that we're playing right now, they worked on that overall product. And they have the nerve right now to go ahead and bash and roast Elden Ring, which is pretty much one of the most popular games out there at the moment. If you go over on Twitter, Modern Warzone put out a tweet saying, a former Battlefield 2042 developer and 2 Sony devs, including the senior quest designer of Horizon Forbidden West, have openly thrown shade at Elden Ring. 2 of these developers have now made their Twitter accounts private. Now, I wonder why they made it private. Well, we're going to talk about it right now. Now, I'm kind of sad that the senior quest designer of Horizon Forbidden West actually was, in on this stuff, but that's not really my main focus right now. My main focus is the fact that the Battlefield UI designer is actually going to go ahead and criticize the UI or UX, whatever you want to call it, and Elden Rings. Now, if you go ahead and look at the actual image here that Modern Warzone posted of these tweets, you can see Ahmed Salama, which is one of the guys who worked on the UX in Battlefield 2042, saying, the fact that Elden Ring scored a 97 Metacritic is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about game UX. My life is a lie. He then goes on to say, Elden Ring, or Elden Rings, I guess I'd say, UX is so bad that I can only imagine FromSoft's devs smoking at their desks and using CRT monitors. I mean, and just so you guys can be filled in, UX is basically the simplicity of being able to navigate the menus. So, going into your options, finding lobbies, finding games, accessing your friends, going to your custom classes, all of the things in the main menu screen or the UI is pretty much what UX is. So, now that you know what that means, you can understand why he went ahead and, turned his account private. Let me be straight up with you here. You don't need good UI or UX or whatever the hell you want to call it if your game is good in general. That's just, backup crap. You feel me? That's just, making it easy enough to navigate the menus and navigate the, the overall game. But who gives a crap about that if the game is good? People will gladly learn, the ins and outs of the frickin' menu as long as the game is worth their time and money. And that's what Elden Ring does correctly. They don't need UI to, carry the game. They have the gameplay to carry the game. And Battlefield 2042 lacks all of that. But not only does it lack good gameplay, it also lacks a good UX design. I can't believe this man has the nerve to come out here and legitimately say this about, like I said, Elden Rings, when their game has one of the worst looking UI I've ever seen in the whole Battlefield franchise. And I personally think Modern Warfare 2 OG sums it up perfectly. The fact that the Battlefield 2042 UX guy has the nerve to comment on UI is laughable. And then he also goes on and says, actually, scrap that. The fact that a Battlefield 2042 dev has the nerve to effing talk about the state of any game is laughable. Once again, he's preaching. Nobody, it doesn't matter what your job is, for any portion of Battlefield 2042. It doesn't matter if you work on, the content side of things, if you work on, making map designs, if you work on the weapons and animations, if you work on, the backstory. It doesn't matter what your job is for this game. Nobody who has worked on Battlefield 2042 should ever have the privilege or anything to go ahead and critique any game out there at this point. How can you go ahead and accuse any game, even if it's not just the UI, is beyond me. It makes no logical sense. Now, yeah, it would make sense if they're critiquing it from, a personal viewpoint. They're just saying, oh, yeah, personally, I don't really care for this game. Personally, I don't really care for the looks of this game. This developer is legitimately saying that his whole life, his career in UI is a lie. It's a lie because people aren't noticing that it's bad in Elden Ring. At this current point, maybe, just maybe, I don't know, it might be a bad idea, but personally I think it's pretty good. Maybe instead of critiquing games that are popping off right now, why don't you try to get inspiration from these games that are popping off? I understand you don't really care for the UX design, but clearly something was done correctly to give it the scores that it's achieving and to give it the popularity that it has. If your UX design was so fantastic, I'm sure Battlefield fans would have loved it. But to be honest with you, one of the biggest complaints right off the bat is that the UI looked horrible. It's horrendous, it's ugly, and it just doesn't make any logical sense. Every past implementation in this game looked 10 million times better, it was much more polished off, and everything was very easy to find. I mean, shoot, even after launch of Battlefield 2042, they had to completely revamp the custom class system because it made absolutely no sense and nobody understood how to get there and create their classes and make things permanent. It was the most confusing process in the whole world. I know we've been told that the failure of Battlefield 2042 is to be blamed on the management in EA, but the more and more I see these developers speak, it seems like it's just everybody. It can't just be management and EA. It has to be the developers as well. If they have this big of an ego, if they think something like Elden Rings has such a bad UX design, regardless if this individual still works on the Battlefield franchise or not, he was one of the current employees during the moment. And if he has this much of a big ego about his Battlefield 2042 UX compared to Elden Rings, I'm sure that's how their ego was the whole life cycle of the game. Hence why the community never came first. All of our ideas thrown in the trash, and only their concepts were legit in their eyes, of course. But ladies and gentlemen, do me a massive favor. Go down in the comment section and leave your opinions down below. Do you think this developer is legit with his opinion? Do you think that the UI is actually that bad in Elden Ring? Or do you think that he's just full of it right now, has a massive ego, and that he has no room to talk, especially after going ahead and putting out, the UI that we have in Battlefield 2042, that absolute, disaster of a joke. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, bonus, hate it, leave a dislike. Also, if you're brand new, enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. Also, on chat with this two ways to do so, Twitter and Discord, both linked in the down description. And also, if you want to catch me live streams of video games over on Twitch, link that in the description as well. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in. See you on the next one. Peace out.